Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Hi, all. Good morning and good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi. It's great to see everybody. We've got our cohort 2 with us, as well as some folks from Duke and otherwise around the world. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's a beautiful morning here at Duke, and hopefully a lovely afternoon where everybody else is. So if you're not speaking, if you all could please mute your audio as we are recording. Thank you. Well, we're gonna jump in with this really exciting panel. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us today in a discussion with these exceptional change makers. They will be discussing their personal and entrepreneurship journeys with us today. This event is part of the Duke-UNICEF Virtual Forum on Social Innovation, brought to you by the Duke-UNICEF Innovation Accelerator. The Accelerator is a unique partnership between Duke University and the United Nations Children's Fund. It identifies and strengthens social enterprises tackling the greatest WASH challenges facing children around the world. And today we have 3 incredible social entrepreneurs doing just that, tackling the biggest challenges that we face today. My name is Taylor Conger, Managing Director of the Accelerator here at Duke, and I am joined today by these 3 amazing entrepreneurs. Peninah Ndegwa, Founder and Managing Director of WowMom Kenya. Welcome, Peninah. Jamila Mayanja, CEO of SmartGirls Uganda, also the founder. And Chukwuma Nnanna, Founder and Executive Director of ToiletPride in Nigeria. So thank you, everybody, for joining us and for sharing your stories today. There's so much that we can learn from each of you. So it's a real treat to be spending this hour together talking. So I'm excited to explore each of your journeys and what brought you to the work that you're doing today. You know, what makes social entrepreneurs so unique and so powerful is their direct connection to and passion for the work that they do. And you all exemplify that passion, that pure passion for your work and your communities. So we're going to explore your journeys through a few questions. Then towards the end, we'll open it up to the audience and our cohort 2 for question and answer. So let's kick it off today by discussing what your organizations do and how you came about starting your work in your communities. Peninah, let's start with you if you don't mind. Good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon from Nairobi. So I'm Peninah Ndegwa. I'm the founder and the managing director of WowMom Kenya, a social enterprise that advocates for children-friendly cities. We are so excited to be here this afternoon and to also listen to other stories from my great panelists. So for WowMom, we actually started out as a blog. We were not thinking that we would be doing the incredible work that we continue to do today. Until one particular day, I happened to be traveling with my child in public transportation in Nairobi. And as an urban planner, I wanted to feel and experience the city in a different perspective. At that particular time, when I got into Nairobi CBD, I needed to change my baby's diapers because I was still on transit. I had like 45 more kilometers to cover in public transportation, which would have taken me like an hour. And my baby would not have waited for that long to get home. So I remember walking around the city, exploring the existing public toilets, whether they had the provision for a baby changing station. And I was in denial, of course. So I hopped into buildings, different toilets, asking around, is there a place to change a baby? And I couldn't get one until I remembered one cafe, CG restaurant in Nairobi. And I walked in, bought coffee that I did not need, and took advantage of that time to change my baby's diaper. That's when I realized that there's a gap and I needed to fill and nobody else would. And what happened the following week in my line of work in designing transport systems, I happened to be in one of the towns in Kenya, in Nyeri, and I remember pitching, or rather telling the government officials that as we designed the bus park, we needed to provide baby changing stations. And to them, they had no idea what a baby changing station was. They had no clue how big it is, whether they need, how much they needed to procure the baby changing station. And considering I was designing a bus park for long commuters, we are speaking about a distance of 200 kilometers via public transportation, and we have children and caregivers traveling every day from Nyeri to Nairobi and to other parts of the country. I felt like this is a very important facility that needed to be provided. So when I noted that gap, that even the implementers themselves do not know, the public toilet operators have no idea what that facility is, but caregivers every day continue to strain for this facility. I knew nobody else was rightfully required to fill the gap other than myself. So that's how we started, through a survey. And we wanted to also gather experiences from caregivers on the challenges that they experienced. And within a very short time, we were able to get massive responses from the caregivers, because these were challenges they were facing every day, but they had no one talking about them. And at least this time they had one of them as a mother and as an urban planner who could be able to relate to them. So that's how we found ourselves in social innovation. Thanks.
Wow, thank you, Peninah. It's such an incredible story, you know, taking your personal experience both as a mother and an urban planner and combining them to fill a real need. You know, you experienced this need yourself, and the more you talked with other people, the more you realized it was an actual problem. And so I love how you said, you know, you were the person to fill this gap, because it's true. And what you're doing by creating these baby changing stations throughout Nairobi and soon throughout Kenya is really, really remarkable. You're doing an incredible service for mothers. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Jamila, how about you? Tell us how you came to start your organization in Uganda and how your personal experience and your background really played into that.
Hi, my name is Jamila Mayanja. Thank you again, Taylor, founder and team lead at SmartGirls Uganda. So how I started SmartGirls Uganda is also from my personal experience. When I was in my primary school, around my P5, when I was around 8 or 9 years, I started my periods quite early. And since I didn't have anyone in our family to actually tell me about what to use during my periods, I ended up using toilet paper, and I didn't even change it. So I ended up mapping my dress so much. And from that day onwards, I went through a lot of menstrual bullying. Fast forward to high school, high school helped me so much build my self-esteem. So when I reached my campus, I decided to do something about menstrual hygiene management, mostly so because I had really gone out in the community and found out that so many girls were even going through worse situations. So I really first held a father-daughter dance event where I was collecting young ladies with their fathers to come and dance and have fun while fundraising for reusable pads that I'll give out in rural areas. It was quite a success for 3 years only, where I really did have these events and later fundraised for these reusable pads. But that led me to start SmartGirls Uganda, though while after 2015, I went back to research and to find out if the girls were actually using the reusable pads. I noticed that was not the case, that most of these girls, even when we had given them reusable pads, they were still staying home and using them from home. So we're actually not making any change in their staying in school during their menstruation periods. There was no difference to take away the problem of menstruation messes getting them out of school. And the other biggest issue, one of the girls that we had given pads in 2013, we met her in 2015, she's called Mildred. We found her already a teenage mother of 2 babies. And when we asked her why she had done that, was the fact that she said she got married to this motorcycle rider because he was helping her buy disposable pads during her menstruation periods. So her parents decided to sell her off to this motorcycle rider, who in return was just buying disposable pads. And this girl we had found on the streets, who we remembered from back when we had given reusable pads. So that's when I innovated the smart bag, before it was the solar smart bag, to really give access to these young girls that if we've given reusable pads, they can be able to have the convenience to carry these reusable pads to school. And if they get to school, they can be able to carry them back to wash them at their convenience. because that was the argument the girls gave us, was the fact that they did not have the convenience to use these reusable pads from school, since they didn't have access to wash facilities or even where to hang them from. And later on, we kept on innovating this bag into recycling it, adding recyclable waste to make it waterproof. And later on, we noticed that girls also need access to light after dark to be able to read their books and also access wash facilities at night. So under Smart Girls, that we started to empower girls and women, we innovated that product that we call the recycled solar smart bag to really absolutely keep girls in school during their menstruation periods. But it mostly comes from my own personal story, going through a lot of menstrual bullying in primary school. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamila. Yeah, a really powerful story. You know, I think we all know menstruation is a global issue, but so is bullying, you know, especially around menstruation. It's a really, really hard time for young girls. And so what you're doing by creating this, you know, kind of all-in-one package for girls to handle their menses is really, really incredible. And you've had some great traction in your work that we've seen grow. So really, really great. Thank you, Jamila, for sharing. Chukwuma, how about you? Tell us about your work and how you got started.
Okay, hi. For me, it wasn't really a personal experience, but I think it was something that happened in my community. I had a very close friend who was a lady with a disability. And then she had just won a beauty pageant for women with disabilities. And I had the chance of working with her as a manager then. So we were doing a lot of travels, long times on the road, sometimes on the air. I noticed that there were challenges with her using the toilets. Sometimes she would be pressed, but we can't stop her on the road because of the disability. And so that got me thinking. And I was wondering, already it's a big challenge for persons without disabilities like me to get a good toilet. How much more persons who have disabilities? So we got thinking, and then so we said, okay, maybe we can begin to talk about issues around WASH. But then it didn't click because I left the organization. But after a while, I had a chance to participate in a volunteer activity for UNICEF, where we had visited some communities to count households that had toilets. So every community we visited had an issue with toilets, complaining about children not being involved. And everywhere we found feces or shit, as we call it in the sector, everyone blamed the child for not being carried along. So I got thinking, everyone keeps blaming the child. How do we ensure that children can be a part of the work we were doing? And that from there, we got thinking. I said, okay, perhaps there is need for more innovation in the sector. There is need for us to begin to look at new approaches to ensuring that everyone becomes a part of the work with it. And so from there, we started with puppetry. Where I got thinking, because all the communities I visited, there were challenges with toilets. Everyone kept saying build toilet, but people weren't building toilets. And most of the toilets we had then were not very attractive. They were not nice. They didn't look exciting. You go to public places, you rather defecate in the bush or in the open as against using a poorly constructed toilet. So I asked myself, what if we created a system that can make people take pride in building toilets? And boom, that was ToiletPride. We said, okay, maybe we need to bring some excitement into the sector. Maybe we need to make sanitation something people can be proud of and really love it. And from there, we got the team together. We started puppetry. We started using puppetry to teach children hand washing. And we realized that children loved it. They loved the idea of puppets. And then we went around communities. But every community we went around, it was beyond hygiene promotion. People wanted toilets, but didn't have money to build toilets. People didn't even know where to get toilets. So we started thinking again, can this be a full-time thing for us? Can we go beyond just raising awareness about the benefit of toilet to actually helping families find and use toilets? And that's what we've been doing ever since. And it's been exciting, helping families to buy and use toilets they truly love and take pride in. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chukwuma. Yeah, it's so incredible. You know, such a simple concept, finding a place to use the restroom, right? Having a dignified, safe place to use the toilet. And what you're doing is providing that for your entire community. It's really, really inspirational. Thank you, Chukwuma. And so, thinking about your work and what your organization's missions are, what would you say is the ultimate impact that you hope to have? How does the life of a single user change because you exist in the world? Can you speak a little bit about that? Chukwuma, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. For me, it's what we see is every family having access to toilets they truly want. For us, I mean, that is the vision, that is what drives us, ensuring that the man who lives in the highly populated area, as much as the man who lives in high income areas, can be able to afford toilets. And so for me, the work we're doing keeps me on my toes, gets me excited, because I see myself as part of something bigger than me. In Nigeria right now, 122 million Nigerians do not have access to good toilets. 47 million Nigerians defecate in the open. And this is a big problem. When you look at the SDGs, we're very far from achieving that. Someone has to get involved. Someone has to take responsibility. Someone has to say, maybe we can try. We can help more families get access to better toilets and live in hygienic communities. So the work I do right now, I see it as part of a big picture that is helping people way beyond me, that will even outlive me and outlast me, to see that children especially can live in open defecation-free communities that are clean, where they can be empowered to fulfill their dreams. So I think there's a lot in toilets, and the work we're doing will help people just live better lives. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And, I think you can all speak to this, taking a holistic approach to solving the problem. So Chukwuma, you're taking a community-based approach where you're using education and theater and puppetry and entertainment, along with actual sales of toilets, to make sure that people have what they need, not only to access, but to have consistent, safe access to safe toilets. And Peninah, you're taking a very similar approach to the baby changing stations. Can you speak a little bit about the ultimate impact of WowMom and how the life of a woman or a child might be changed by you?
Sure. Yeah, it's been like the most fulfilling year of my life, because this is the year that we've actually started implementation. Of course, because being a social innovator, it takes time to come up with a product, prototype it, test it, pilot, and through this program, of course, we've managed to do all that. And one of my biggest highlight has been just seeing caregivers bring their children to work every day just because they can access a baby changing station. One of the places where we started the implementation is in a market in Gikomba market. Gikomba market is one of the biggest market actually in Eastern Central Africa. There's a lot of open air space where vendors place their wares and they sell, and most of them, because they are low-income women, they mean mostly women, they may not afford alternative caregiving services for their children. That means their children are part of their work system. They have to bring their children to work every day. That means if you're staying with a child every day, and like me, was traveling once, by passing a town, this is a child who has to be changed frequently in the course of the day, say 3-4 times in a day. And so what happened is that there was a lot of shame around changing the babies. And, like, in as much as the markets do have toilets that the parents could use, there was no provision for the children. And so if you exclude the child, that means the caregiver is also excluded. So what happened is that they would either change their children on top of their wares, most of them are tailors, they are selling clothes. So most of them would change their babies on top of those clothes. First of all, because they're secondhand clothes, some of them, they're not very clean, they're not hygienic. So you're exposing your child to very bad germs. And again, the ridicule. People, it's in the open, it's in the public domain, and everybody's passing by. And so even customers would run away because they don't want to be associated with any woman changing their baby's diaper on top of their clothes that they intend to buy. And of course, the worst part was even where they dispose the diapers, because once we change, there's no provision. So again, they would just throw them on the street, and that's the same space where their children are playing. So it's a whole cycle of, one thing leading to another, causing another bigger challenge. And with our initiative, when we went to the Komba market, we found now the women there was a small room that was designated as baby center. It's a new market, like 5-story building. So there was a small room where it was designated as a baby center. So that's where the women would go hide. But again, there was no provision for a dignified place to change. So what they would do, they would lay carton boxes on the floor. Again, dirty. Sometimes the floors are cold, it's dusty, it's not easy to clean. And that's where they would change their babies. And so when we went there, we provided the baby changing station, and of course, even went way beyond the baby changing station to even provide a crèche where now caregivers can even leave their babies. So through that program, we've served over 100 caregivers. They bring their children to work every day. We've actually seen up to that 5% increase in the number of caregivers who are now bringing they were not coming with their children to the market before, but now they are coming with their children to the market before, just because they can access a baby changing station. That means they're less stressed in terms of, thinking about where they left their baby in crowded daycares, and now they have a clean space. They can comfortably leave their baby and change their baby. And most importantly, we also ensure that those children play and interact with each other, and the diapers are safely disposed. And just seeing that those women will use the one baby changing station like 3-4 times in a day, it's extremely fulfilling. And this goes again to the public toilets that we've installed. We've also installed in a public terminus in Nairobi, and just seeing long distance travelers, first of all, they never knew. We had to do a lot of awareness, sensitization for them to know that this is actually their product. But now seeing them particularly use a certain bus station just because they can be able to change their children on the go has also been very fulfilling. And even in the churches, we've also installed baby changing station in churches, and we just hear the mothers feeling, they just feel happy and they feel dignified, because it's just not about the children, it's also the mothers. And we're really happy to be part of the change, ensuring that children and their sanitation needs are provided for. And also, even in terms of policy, just being in a position where now we've noted the gap, being the trailblazers of that particular innovation in the country, just seeing now government and institutions taking keen interest on how we can now have standards for baby changing stations in the national standards is also very fulfilling, because then we know once we have the standards in place, it's very easy for more children to be provided for. So it's been great and fulfilling, and we can't wait to see the bigger impact. One baby changing station can serve as many children as possible, and it's there to stay for a very long time. So we are really excited to see everyday women and children enjoy our facility. So yeah.
Wow, just amazing, Peninah. And at first glance, you might think, oh, it's a convenience issue. Just being able to find a place to change your baby that's safe and clean. But it's so much more than that. It's about, the health, the actual physical health of the child. It's about the mental and emotional health of the mother. It's about convenience, but so much more. And, doubling your work as both, the physical product, but also, this daycare, and being able to help women get to work and stay at work. There's such an impact there, both financially, economic, emotional, so much there. So thank you, Peninah. It's really, really exciting to see. Jamila, how about you? Tell us about SmartGirls' ultimate impact and how girls' lives are changed daily by your incredible work.
Someone would think how simple is just a bag, but it came from us really implementing human-centered design and really empathizing with the young girls. We do not take away the fact that whoever innovated the reusable pad was quite a very good idea, but we needed to make sure these girls have a 360 solution to absolutely stay in school. And the first time when we innovated the bag, when we just came up with the idea of the bag, was the fact that most of the girls, when we give them reusable pads, they'll give us feedback that when they get to school, most of these reusable pads are the same, they look alike. When they get to hang them, they get to confuse those reusable pads. So you can imagine one pad moving to another girl, and hence sharing becomes a problem, a disease problem. And then when some of them in the rural areas, when they get to school, most of them share wash facilities. So the whole cycle torture of them actually getting to school, during break time, she has to change her pad and wash it. And then lunchtime, she has to do the same. So it was becoming a problem. So the first time we really put up the bag, it was only Kitengi, and they really loved the idea. But still, it wasn't enough to absolutely help them stay in school, because most of them were walking quite a distance from home to school, and Uganda being quite a rainy season, whenever they would walk, the content in the bag would get wet. So later on, we decided to recycle plastic waste to make sure, add in the bag so that it's waterproof. And this also solved the problem, because now they were able to move with their reusable pads when it was raining. But it was still not enough, because most of them, when they get home, they get indulged in housework, and then most of them, their wash facilities at home are detached from the in-house. So after dark, they don't have access to maintain their mess, because most of them actually wash or maintain their hygiene after dark, after doing all this housework. So adding the solar panel was to really make sure these girls have a 360 solution to menstrual hygiene and keeping in school. And we are very happy to note that all of them appreciate our advancing the solution, the solar smart bag now. And they absolutely, we have some we've enrolled beyond P7 because the solar bag kept them there, and they're still thriving with it till the end.
Just incredible, Jamila. And you know, taking that holistic approach, but also understanding your customers so well, you know, knowing that what you started with wasn't actually serving your customer in the way that you wanted it to. It wasn't that 360 solution. And now over the course of several years, you've iterated, and it's been an iterative process to create your product, which is that smart bag. And you know, the solar component is so genius, you know, because it's not just helping girls find the toilet at night or wash their pads at night, but also study and do things other than housework, which is so incredible for their own personal growth. Really great stuff, Jamila. Thank you. You know, you're all pretty far along in your ventures. You know, you started several years ago, most of you, but at the beginning, it can be really scary, right? You know, when you're first starting and you don't even consider yourself an entrepreneur, let alone a social entrepreneur, and there's so much you have to learn, you know, because you're not all entrepreneurs by trade. You do all of these other things and had all of this life experience before starting your organizations. So how was it at the beginning? What were your biggest challenges? What were your biggest fears? And how did you overcome them over time and get to where you are now? Jamila, let's go ahead and start with you.
Mine was first the team, because I won't forget the first time I told them about the idea, because first just organizing the fundraising event before even innovating the smart bag, getting a team to try and dedicate their time. When you're not paying them, they're sacrificing their time, because time is quite a resource. Everybody needs to use their time to look for something to eat, for money. And here you're telling people, come together, let's mobilize, let's create an event. It may work, it may not work, and we're giving back. So just getting a team, inspiring a team to join you was one of the biggest challenge. But how I mitigated that was that I kept on pushing and making them believe and seeing the social good beyond what I was trying to achieve. And eventually, later on, I started with 2 people, and then the team grew to now we have 11 full-time staff and more than 20 part-time staff. And the other was really resources, funds. But we did not have enough, and that's why we started with the fundraising event, because At that time, I didn't have enough expertise to really write a very good proposal. I didn't have the history, the experience, because most grant people really want to give you money after they've seen what you've done. So that's why I decided to start with an event, and later on really use my own resources with the successes of the fundraising event to help start creating prototype. And I've been very keen to really use the resources that are accessible to me. That's why you see our bag is really full of kitengi. But before, when with the kitengi, it also became expensive a bit. And the idea of adding recyclable waste really saved us from a lot of material costs. Because this is waste, we are helping the environment pick up this waste. That is no cost, because nobody's going to tell you, no, don't take that waste. I'm going to charge you this amount of dollars. So that really helped us mitigate in trying to look for a lot of funds to try these bags made. And marketing and branding, trying to get out to balance the fact that we're doing a social cause, because we sell some bags, and with every 5 bags we sell, we make another we give out for free. Doing that is not so easy. First, most people really appreciating that I'm buying this bag for myself or I'm actually donating it is a problem. And some people don't want to even buy something that is going to be used by a lower class or a lower income person. But we made the bags so beautiful. Some of them are behind there. We made them so beautiful that you can buy it for yourself, appreciating that you have a same product that is helping someone in the rural areas, and that you've contributed to keeping one of the rural girls in school. So also the branding, we used what was accessible to us. We used a lot of word of mouth, door-to-door referrals. We went to a lot of networking events. We still do so to try and promote sales, because the more sales we make, the less we depend on grants, the less we have that more income to actually make those we can give out for free. So those have been our biggest challenges, but with experience, we've learned to learn from also our failures, because there was a year in COVID where all schools were closed in Uganda for 2 years. And remember, we had made these bags for those going to school. So we innovated cool waste bags and funny packs that had on solar power banks that would sell to different people, so that, and would even do door-to-door deliveries. So those helped us accumulate capital for the bags that we've given out when the schools got to open. And we did a lot of WhatsApp videos in groups, so people were seated at home, but they kept on seeing our work, which was really good for us when everything opened and the schools opened after COVID. So yeah, thank you.
So many early challenges. I mean, it's figuring out how to be scrappy, right? Using waste instead of paying for expensive materials. It's finding a team that will do things for free. That's a crazy thing to think about in business, but in social entrepreneurship, that's what we have to do. And then we have to create a culture where people want to stay. So when we're finally making money a little bit more sustainable, we can bring these people on full time. And then Jamila, talking about your business plan, how you had to, figure out your actual model and how you were going to create revenue, and how that was a process. And I think that's very, very true for every enterprise, especially social enterprises. Peninah, how about you? What was it like at the beginning?
I have to say it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. First, because we didn't have a product. Of course, I've gone in malls and I would see some of the provision of the BTG stations, but most of them were not of good quality, which really, even as much as they were there, they were not up to standards in terms of being able to cater for a bigger child, like from a year, actually from 6 months and above. They are really narrow baby changing stations. They're not deep enough. They are very light. So it's even scary to even place a baby there. So we felt like we needed to come up with a quality product. And now that was the biggest challenge. How do you come up with a quality product? Prototyping for us was extremely difficult. First, because we thought we'd easily get a product locally made. And again, remember our focus was the public toilets. So if you go to most of the public toilets in Nairobi, you'll find that some of them are clean, but most of them sometimes have wet floors because of, they are very busy. They have like high frequency. So they're not very clean as opposed to some of the toilets at homes or the building. So if you're coming up with a product that will be installed in that particular facility, you have to think about the hygiene aspect. And of course, the cost of developing the product. So we came up, we started developing some products locally. We started with wood, and we came up with a very interesting baby changing. It was nice. It's really nice, nice wooden casing. But to be honest, we've never installed it anywhere. It's just part of our history, because first, wood is so hard to clean. It would not be very sustainable. It would either get water and start rotting away. So we again had to go back to the drawing board. We came up around steel. How do we work with steel? And we looked for some very great local steel fabricators who were, who have done even things for hospitals, including furnishing hospitals and all that. But again, it was not working for us because of first the cost. It became too expensive to produce one baby changing station. Again, they would rust, or they're not very comfortable for the children. They're either too cold or too harsh or even too heavy for even caregivers to start operating, because a mother is always carrying a child and a diaper bag. So they are loaded as they are. So you need something that you can easily pull with one hand while you're holding a bag and a baby on the other hand. So considering all those factors, again, we go back to the drawing board. And we had to outsource our product from China, unfortunately, but at least we were able to get quality products that were more affordable to us. We could be able to customize in terms of the depth that you wanted, in terms of the branding that you wanted. Again, once you come up with a product, you have to test whether it's actually going to work. And you want to test it in a busy place where it's easy for you to, to test whether it can actually last, whether people, just the customer reception, how they're going to take it, the user friendliness, and all those aspects. So we got some good quality product. That was a plus. But now even getting the location to install was another challenge. Of course, we're working with the government. But I remember now seeking approval to install the baby changing stations. And the government, Nairobi City County Planning Department, of which I'm an urban planner, it was so ridiculous because they told us that we needed to apply for a development application, similar to what you do when you're building a whole 10, 20, 50-story building. And I'm just thinking, this is the product I just need to go retrofit within an existing system. So again, it was such a hiccup. And in fact, we had to ignore the planning department. And we had now to use a different approach, work through gender department and the market department, which are mostly led by women, because then they would understand, okay, it's in my market, there's already space, there's nothing that we need. We just need to, drill the wall and have it installed. So that was the other challenge. Again, you install it and people do not know, have no idea what the product is. So it's like one thing leads to another, one thing leads to another. And again, you have to sensitize people. This is how you use the product. This is, it's comfortable, it's secure for your child. So we were very particular, including the design, like our baby changing stations are very secure. They're deep enough to fit in the baby. Even if you don't strap the baby will not fall down. The bearing weight is strong. The color is something that can be installed in multiple places. You don't want to come up with the, let's say, pink color of a baby changing station, and maybe it may not align with the theme of the color scheme of the bathroom. So there are so many design aspects. But moving forward, one of the biggest lessons we've learned is to never give up. Keep moving. Try, go back to the drawing board until you come up with a good product. And then again, the moment people see it, I think one of our best strategies that we used, we went to the busiest location to provide sort of free. Initially, the first two were like free, for testing, and it was in the busiest of locations. So more people would come to see it, and that's how we actually that's our biggest marketing facility, because people will walk in to use the toilet and then they'll see, oh, I need it for my church, I need it for my restaurant. So that's how that it became like a marketing avenue for us. And then finally, just maintaining it. We found that it's so easy to maintain. We've not had an issue since we installed our very fast baby changing station. There has not been any breakage that needed to be done. And then the mothers, because if you come up with a quality product, they become your marketers, free marketers. So like we've seen mothers telling each other, oh, there's a baby changing station there, you can go use, and they even should teach each other how to use it. So that's how it has been. Not an easy road, still not easy even now, but I think we are somewhere better. And finally, being the first, we were the first people to even talk about baby changing stations in this country. And nobody would understand our idea other than Duke-UNICEF, I have to say. So when, again, before even Duke came to be, we were like, who will know about the challenges that mothers are going through? Who is going to give us a platform to even present the challenge? Of course, I had friends of mine running conferences, but mostly in transportation. And now I had to shift our idea and how it would fit into transportation sector. But we started organizing our own conferences and webinars online. Of course, thanks to COVID, things were more affordable because you don't need to pay for venues. It's just online Zoom, and more people would attend. They would get to learn about the challenge of women. And through that, we got free press coverages, and people knew about the challenge, and it's become our marketing avenue as well. So it's just been one thing after another, but we keep on, just like Jamila. Even right now, we are not there yet. We'll keep on innovating. A challenge will come. We know it's going to come, but we keep on leapfrogging that or learning from each other and not giving up. And again, most importantly, focusing on the people that you serve. Never losing the sight of the children and the caregivers that you support. So thanks.
Thank you, Peninah. Yeah, so much learning happens at the beginning. So much learning, we make mistakes and we try different ways of doing things, trying wood and then steel for your product and realizing that's not going to work. Realizing that locally sourced materials isn't cost effective for you where you are right now. Learning how to negotiate politics, something you're not even thinking about when you start with this great idea. And then suddenly you're confronted with these, crazy policies or politicians who don't have any stake in what you're doing, but also have the power to say no. And so how do you negotiate around that? So being flexible at the beginning, being scrappy, like we said with Jamila, it's all so critical to getting past that first scary stage. Chukwuma, how about you? How were things in the beginning?
Yeah, really crazy. Like every other person. I think for me, my biggest challenge then was myself. Convincing myself that it was worth it. How are you going to just keep talking about toilets and shit, literally? I remember one of those days, I was talking to a friend and he's like, is this all you're going to do with your life? Just go talk to people about toilets. Like, you think there's something better I can do with my life, So convincing myself first was the big deal, that this was worth the trouble and that this would get attention and that I could sustain it. Then, of course, you had your community also. Building credibility, getting to a point where you can get people to believe what you wanted to do. And like the other, like my friends, getting in the team too wasn't easy because, yes, you have passion, but passion, they don't pay bills. You have people that want to be on your team, but they tell you, if you keep talking about toilets, how am I going to do other things? How am I going to make money? How am I going to do stuff? So it was tough. I think for me, the first thing I've learned over time is, you yourself, getting to the point where you can believe it so badly that it makes sense, even when it doesn't make sense. And then gradually begin to build the momentum, get people on your team, and then find the resources to move. One of the things that the challenge, of course, there's no resources, but again, I'm refining the idea such that it was attractive and marketable. Yes, you want to talk about toilets, you want to talk about sanitation, but how can we talk about toilets and sanitation in a way that we can get the desired attention and impact and change that we want to keep doing what we're doing? That was also a challenge because you say people don't have toilets, so what? You say people need to be toilets, so what? But how do we get people to take action, to be a part of what you're doing? And so that was also a big challenge. It took us over 2-3 years to keep talking to people, keep knocking on doors. Sometimes you show up events where you're not invited. Sometimes you send dozens of proposals and people tell you, yeah, I like what you're doing. It's a brilliant idea, but I don't have budget for you. Can you come next year? Can you come, and you just keep writing, just keep talking, and you just keep believing. And, and of course, there's the issue of resources, like Jamila and Peninah said. You will get to a point where you want to do good. You want to make more impact. You go to a school, a primary school, using pit latrine, you want to upgrade, but you don't have the money to do it. and you're trying to talk to someone and it's not the person's priority at that point. The person is like, I have my problems too. How am I going to fix toilet for some bunch of kids or children I don't even know, I may never know, so this is where the early challenges, but over time, we've seen that if you're able to stay on it, if you're able to keep reinventing yourself, if you're able to see the big picture and connect your goal to something bigger than you, somehow the door opens. Sometimes people begin to work with you. Sometimes people begin to trust you. And sometimes you gradually begin to make the impact you want. We can't save the world in one day. We may never even save the world, but your community first, one family at a time, one household at a time, just making that impact. And for me, that has been the journey. Not very easy, but enough to keep you waking up early and sleeping late, enough to keep pushing you, enough to make you want to make more impact in your community. So the journey hasn't been very easy, but exciting. And I'm still glad I'm on this route here. Thanks.
Thank you, Chukwuma. Yeah, just paying attention to those small victories, that the first family you impact, the second family you impact, and building and building and building that momentum of change, seeing your community transform because of the work that you're doing, and helping you build that confidence. Because you're right, when we first start, and I know Peninah and Jamila, you guys felt this way as well, there's this imposter feeling, why am I doing this? Why hasn't anyone else thought of this? Am I the right person? And so Chukwuma, you said it so eloquently, like, you just have to jump in and you just have to know that this is needed and that you are the person to do it. And keeping that confidence in the face of rejection, because it does happen, right? You're rejected for grants, you're rejected by a meeting, it's constant, right? And so how do you hold on to those victories, those small victories along the way, to keep going? Really, really, really great stuff, Chukwuma. Thank you. And Chukwuma, let's come back to you. As ToiletPride has grown and you've matured out of the early stages, the early days, how has your mindset shifted? You might have started kind of in the scarcity mindset where, oh my God, I have to get everything and do everything to make sure that I can survive. Now that you're thriving, how has your mindset changed?
Yeah, it's changing from wanting to do so much to just doing little, but that makes more sense. When we started, we wanted to do a lot. We were so passionate, we wanted to just be everywhere, solve every problem. But as we grow, we begin to redefine our focus. Trying to do what matters more, and then having a niche for ourselves. When we started, we were doing a lot of work around hygiene promotion, but the last 2 years, we're having a niche for promoting market-based sanitation approaches. So for us, we've been able to shift, we've been able to recreate ourselves to say, there's a big gap. If our organization has to take the lead in providing toilets. Beyond the meetings in the high places, in the boardrooms, someone has to go to the field. Someone has to train the masons that will provide the toilet. Someone has to find the sanitation loan. Someone has to fix the toilet beyond the talk. So there's been a big shift from trying to do so much to trying to do what really, really matters and that can make the bigger impact. So we've seen that shift in the last 2 years, trying to say, if we stay on just market-based sanitation, we could do this for the next 10 years and we may not still be able to solve the problem. And that's enough work already. So we've seen that shift. As we grow, we're also learning to delegate more. We're learning to focus on what truly matters. We're careful what we want to do. I think it's also reflecting our fundraising efforts. When we started, we wanted to apply for almost every other grant. Every time an email pops up, you want to jump at it, even when you're not even qualified, scattering energies. But now we want to ask ourselves, are we fit for this? Are we the right organization to go for these grants? If I'm the funder, would they give me this money? So over time, we're also learning to conserve energy for what we think is truly important. So we've seen some level of maturity, even in our teamwork. We're learning to work better, communicate more, and then support each other. So there's been a massive shift from our organization, our governance system at the office, our programming also, and also even our ambition. We're learning to just take it one step at a time because there's a big work to be done, so we don't burn out. Yeah, so we're learning to keep our eyes on the ball, do what really matters, and what will give us the bigger results. Thanks.
Right, being less opportunistic is such a good lesson. It's a great lesson for everybody here. You can't apply for everything. You can't get everything. So what makes sense for you as an organization? Such great points, Chukwuma, thank you. How about you, Jamila? How has your mindset shifted as you've grown?
It has shifted a lot. For me, it has been mostly not to forget to empathize. Because when you and not let your ego get in the way with the work that you're actually doing. For example, with the opportunity we've got with Duke-UNICEF, for me as a person, it has brought me a lot of awareness around the world. I've been able to share a lot about my innovation. I've been able to pull a lot of partners, but to not forget to empathize and to always reignite your passion. So really, and not to get your ego that this is it, that's the end. So keep on looking for opportunities on how to keep on refining and making it better, because times change. They really change. So what has killed most of, let's say, our leaders that are leading us right now is the fact that they believe the solutions they developed years ago are the solutions of now. So we really need to always really keep on learning, inspire ourselves, keep on being hungry to make even much more impact. That has driven me to believe that even if what I've innovated right now is working, I still think there's a gap. I can do much more. So I'm always hungry to try and create more impact, to try and make more change, and to learn and grow more partners that can help me reach as much impact as I can reach. So for me, that's very important for me, never to let my passion die, to always keep me inspiring, to try and create as much impact as I can, as much as possible. Thank you.
Well said, Jamila. Stay hungry, right? Stay hungry, stay passionate, keep that passion alive. And, the other great thing, really helpful thing I think you said is, never lose sight of your customer. Who is that girl that you're trying to help? And always remembering that in all of the work you do, especially as you grow and diversify your products, your programs. Who is that little girl that you're helping? Really well said. Thank you. Peninah, how about you? How have things shifted for you since the early days?
I think everything has changed other than the passion and the focus of the people. I think along the way, the challenges that come up really make you just know the initial idea will not work and you have to go back to the drawing board. Initially, I thought I would sell millions of baby changing stations because there's none in the market. It's a blank space, and it still is a blank space. But then reality checks in. You're like, you do your market share and you're like, wow, you may not be able to get to that level. But so how do you still maintain your profits? How do you continue to still make impact and grow your organization? So shifting that, still not losing the sight of the people, but now again innovating a different business model that you thought would work, but now it cannot work. For example, right now we focus on advertising, that even if I'm selling pure baby changing station, advertising on one baby changing station for a year could be equal to installing like 5 more baby changing stations. So just innovating that took time, and it took a lot of humility to accept, hey, you know what, this is the reality. You selling 1 million is difficult. And I think what really, for me, it's about the people. I decided like never to give up on the people. And again, sometimes you wake up one day, you're a boss. Personally, I was employed. I was a very good employee. I do not know how to be a good boss. And all of a sudden you have to manage people. And I found that a bit difficult as well. So just learning to be a team player and a leader at the same time is different from being an employee. So just try every day, trying things out and not giving up and not losing focus has been the way to go. And I think we will still continue pursuing in that. And again, like you mentioned earlier, celebrating small wins. And for me, another mantra in my life is slow and steady wins the race. So not comparing yourself that people are doing, selling millions of things, and I'm just selling one baby changing station. How much, if one baby changing station is serving 50 children in a day, that is 150 times because they're being changed like 3 times in a day. So for me, that's a big impact. So if I compare that to maybe the number of millions of small sanitation solutions that may be sold, I may lose focus. So I decided to go slow and steady, not give up, but consistent. And like Chukwuma said, eventually the doors open. Yeah. So thanks.
So many truths there, Peninah. You know, of course, you've got these big, grand goals, but it's also about being realistic and how to make those small impacts every single day and not losing steam. Really, really well said. Thank you. In our last minutes, if you could give advice to a budding social entrepreneur, someone who wanted to start their own, wash social enterprise or any social enterprise, what kind of advice would you give? What kind of nuggets do you have to share? Jamila, let's start with you.
Just go for it. Just go for it. If you want to do it, it will, like Peninah said, it will eventually work out. Like, we get scared to take that first step. Like, oh my God, I'm going to fail. But I've learned, if I have the idea, let me write it down. Let me look for ways how I can do it. So if you do not have an idea to do it, everything, first Google about if someone has done something like what you've done before. I'm sure there's someone who has done something small about what you want to solve, about what you want to do. Learn from what they've done. I'm sure someone has shared their failures, learn from them. So just take that first step. We always fear to take the step, and just failure leads to success. So if you can't succeed without failing first, so just try. It's better to try and not try at all. So just do it.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Jamila. Chukwuma.
Yeah, I'll say you will need a strong support system. It's one of the things I've learned over time, because it's going to get rough. It's going to get tough at some point. You're going to have your back on the ground, and you need someone or something or some people that can still tell you it's possible beyond yourself. So you will need a strong support system. When you go for it, you will need someone else behind that can say you could still do this. So family is key. Your community is strong. It's important for you. You need a strong support system. I've learned that over time. Yeah.
You can't go it alone. Well said. Peninah.
Yeah, I loved what you said. It's very, very true. And for me, I've also learned along the way, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You're here for the long haul. If you can give it 5 years, don't give it 5 minutes. So the moment you decide, just do it, get in, do it, give it 5 years. Because, if thinking about if all of us now figured, we are for WowMom Baby Changing Station project, particularly now we're in our 3rd year, and I can already see growth. So I could have given up on the first year, but now looking back, and I can't wait to be where I will be in 5 years. So just be patient. Know you're here for the long haul, and just keep focusing on your impact and try it out. Do not be scared of starting. That support is so important. I think just having those people who remind you that you're on the right track is so important. Like for me, this program has been good. I keep saying to Taylor, it's like therapy. Every time we have a call, it's like therapy. So even having a community of social innovators who go through the same challenges as you really gives you so much hope, especially if they are a few steps ahead of you. You're like, wow, if Chukwuma had the same challenge and he has done all this, then who am I not to give up? So it really helps. So if you can give it 5 years, don't give it 5 minutes. And again, I think Jamila also mentioned, when you're starting out, you don't have much money. For me, I had to be an employee or do consultancy work for other jobs that can give me money to sustain myself, because sometimes you can say, oh, I can jump into being an entrepreneur, and then you're depressed because you cannot sustain your family. So it's okay to work extra hard, even if it means transnighting, working on your innovation at night while working full-time during the day, just to make money and support yourself, so that it is less stressful, at least economically, when you're really starting. So thanks.
Thank you, Peninah. Yeah, so true all around. And we have just one final question from the chat box, and then we'll wrap up. So if one of you could just answer, whoever would like to answer, how did you deal with imposter syndrome when you first started out? Who'd like to tackle that in about a minute?
I can. I did go through that a little bit, but it mostly I noticed comes from trying to be a perfectionist, wanting to really have everything streamlined. So how I dealt with it is that, when I think of something, I work it out. I'm like, let me try this out. Like, if I take away the trying to be perfect, because you can never have a perfect solution. And that's why I refined my solution over and over again, because perfectionism means your solution is the only one in the world that can solve that problem. And that's out. Like, that's why we look for partners. That's why we look for learning. That's why we look for knowledge. So for me, it's really to let move with the flow and really let your failure, your trials, like, inspire you and make you hungry to do much more. I think that's what you need to do to appreciate that you're not perfect and that it's okay to fail and to always seek more knowledge when you need it. That's how I outgrew it, because I went through it for some time.
Thank you for sharing that, Jamila. And I think we all do. Everybody faces that. Well, wow, everybody. Thank you so much for this incredible conversation. You've all had such long and arduous and successful and amazing journeys. And you've shared so many great nuggets of advice and your own perspectives of how to be a social entrepreneur, how to make it as a social entrepreneur, how to deal with failure. It's okay to fail, knowing that it's a marathon and not a sprint, leaning on your community, just so many great lessons that you've shared today. So thank you both, all of you so much. Peninah, thank you. Chukwuma, Jamila, thank you all so much. And thank you everybody for joining in the audience. We appreciate you listening. And everybody, please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all from the Duke-UNICEF Innovation Accelerator.